Authority-building silence doesn't merely withhold speech, it crafts mystique. By resisting the urge to comment, explain, or justify, the strategic individual invites others to project competence, confidence, and depth onto them. What people don't know about you, they often fill in with elevated assumptions. Consider the CEO who speaks only at critical junctures, the coach who offers few but powerful words, or the political figure who lets ambiguity amplify their perceived influence. Their silence becomes presence, their restraint, power. In contrast, those who narrate their every move diminish the aura of control. If everything is articulated, nothing feels decisive. This kind of silence is not passive. It's a posture, intentional, steady, unshaken. It signals certainty in one's position without the need for validation. As Machiavelli would argue, the prince must not only act decisively, but appear to act with purpose. Silence, when strategically used, creates the appearance of depth even before it proves substance. The third and final form is adaptive silence, the kind that preserves optionality and flexibility. In fast-changing environments, the loudest voices are often the first to become outdated. Those who broadcast rigid plans or firm ideologies become trapped by their own declarations. But those who remain quiet retain room to maneuver. Machiavelli knew that survival often depended on one's ability to pivot. He who lets himself be governed by the situation and not by fixed rules will succeed, he implied. Adaptive silence is the shield of the agile strategist. It allows for alignment with emerging realities without the burden of contradiction. It buys time, creates ambiguity, and avoids commitments that could later become liabilities. In the age of social media, press releases, and instant replies, adaptive silence is underutilized, but immensely powerful. It resists the modern urge to define oneself prematurely. It grants permission to evolve without explanation. It makes room for becoming. In summary, strategic silence is not about muteness, it is about mastery. It's about choosing when to speak, how much to reveal, and what to withhold. It is a rejection of the modern myth that value lies in constant expression. Instead, it embraces the timeless truth that power often belongs not to the loudest voice, but to the quietest presence that listens, observes, and acts with precision. In a world oversaturated with noise, silence isn't emptiness, it's signal. And those who learn to wield it, like Machiavelli's ideal prince, don't just survive, they dominate. This dynamic explains why job candidates who speak less but with precision often leave a stronger impression than those who ramble in hopes of covering all bases. The interviewer subconsciously attributes competence to conciseness, interpreting silence not as ignorance, but as deliberation. The candidate who answers with calm, thoughtful brevity is seen as confident. The one who overshares is seen as uncertain, even if more informed. Similarly, in leadership, the silent figure often becomes a source of speculation and intrigue. Their words, when finally spoken, arrive with disproportionate force. Their opinions, however sparing, tend to shape the room because they've trained others to listen when they speak. That is the psychological power of calibrated silence. It doesn't reduce influence, it magnifies it. Third, silence intensifies presence. In interpersonal dynamics, silence can feel charged, even magnetic. The one who listens deeply, without rushing to fill conversational space, signals strength. They command attention not with volume, but with stillness. In group settings, such individuals often shape the flow of conversation without dominating it. Their restraint becomes gravitational. Machiavelli would see this as alignment with natural human psychology. People follow those who appear least needy of validation, who act as though they already possess what others are still trying to prove. Strategic silence is not the absence of communication. It is communication elevated. It's the discipline of knowing that words have weight, and the wisdom to know when their absence is even more powerful. In a culture obsessed with visibility, silence becomes a kind of invisibility cloak, shielding intentions, revealing others' weaknesses, and creating space for true power to operate unseen. Machiavellian silence is not about being passive, it's about being precise. It's not about secrecy, it's about sovereignty. It's not about avoiding truth, it's about deploying truth when and how it has the greatest impact. So the next time you're tempted to explain, announce, justify, or react, pause. Consider whether silence might serve you better, because in the right hands, silence isn't a weakness, it's a weapon. The discipline of strategic silence. The discipline of strategic silence begins not with the mouth, but with the mind. It requires resisting the impulse to fill space with sound, to assert presence through noise, to chase relevance by volume. Instead, it demands intentionality, an internal pause that asks, what is gained by speaking now? To practice this discipline in daily life, start with awareness. Before responding in conversation, especially in emotionally charged moments, ask, is this reply necessary or is it reactive? Machiavellian silence favors precision over participation. Speaking less doesn't mean contributing less. It means contributing with greater force. In professional environments, cultivate a reputation for measured speech. Speak when your words add value, not just when there is a pause to fill. In meetings, let others expose their positions before offering yours. In negotiations, hold your cards until the other side reveals theirs. Use silence not as avoidance, but as leverage. In leadership, create mystique by sharing only what supports your vision. When you outline strategy, present the what and the why, but reserve the how. When you respond to challenges, do so with calm finality, not defensive justification. Authority is not asserted by volume, but by composure. Machiavelli knew that silence in a leader signals command, not just of others, but of self. In relationships, practice what might be called benevolent reticence. You don't need to disclose every fear, plan, or regret. Withhold what diminishes respect or weakens perception unnecessarily. Speak to connect, but also to calibrate. Not every truth must be spoken in real time to be real. Most importantly, in strategy, always preserve your ambiguity until the outcome is secured. Let others believe they understand your direction while you retain the freedom to change it. Silence here isn't evasion, it is adaptability. Strategic silence is a form of power accessible to anyone, but practiced by few. It requires patience in a culture that rewards speed, discernment in an era obsessed with disclosure, and restraint in an age of reaction. But those who master it possess a profound advantage. While others are busy proving, performing, and persuading, the strategically silent are positioning, listening, and winning. Because in the end, those who speak constantly are often heard less, and those who speak rarely are heard when it matters most. The paradox of influence. In a world obsessed with voice, the true strategist listens. While others compete to be heard, the Machiavellian communicator cultivates quiet command, not by absence, but by intention. They understand that influence is not always about projection, sometimes it's about gravity. The quiet draws attention not through volume, but through the space they leave unfilled. This is the paradox. Those who master silence often hold more sway over outcomes than those who dominate the conversation. Power, after all, isn't always taken. Sometimes it's given, granted to the one who appears least needy for it. Strategic silence is not passivity, it's poised observation. a readiness to act that waits, watches, and moves only when it matters. It's the art of letting others reveal their hand before you play yours, of saying less, so what is said lands with greater weight, of resisting the urge to always explain, always justify, always perform. Machiavelli's genius lies not in cruelty, but in clarity. He saw that the human mind is not persuaded by truth alone, it's moved by perception, timing, and restraint. He understood that words are tools, not treasures, that mystery often commands more loyalty than transparency ever could, and perhaps most importantly, he recognized that the greatest power often belongs not to the loudest voice in the room, but to the one who knows when to be quiet. In the age of oversharing, strategic silence is a lost art, but it remains a winning strategy.